Oh, hi. Okay. So, this was kind of meant to be in a bad acting, like, oh, hi, Mark. Um, uh, so yes, this is just foreshadowing what we're gonna talk about today, and it has to do with celebrity. And I also wore a shirt that is on theme with this topic. So let me look at my notes here. So, um, but yeah, I was gonna say like, oh, I didn't see you there. Really bad acting. Anyway, so my question is, have you ever thought about how much of what you want is shaped by society and how much is what you actually want? Um, I know some people who have kind of thought about this. Maybe you've thought about this, where byproducts of society, even if we don't want to admit it, we do care what others think, and sometimes our identities, if identity exists, become something where it's like we're not sure, if we want it because we want it, or if we want it because society wants it, or if where does our identity stop and the collective begin. And maybe there isn't really a line there. So I wanted to talk about Sofia Coppola's The Bling Ring, and also relating to Nancy Jo Sales' Vanity Fair article and the subsequent book that she wrote, a nonfiction book called The Bling Ring, which is what the press called this group of teenagers, which we'll talk about. So this explores themes of wealth and fame in relation to the advent of social media. So when this was happening, social media was starting to become a thing. It also takes on socioeconomic class, so it's a lot packed into a 2-hour film. Oh, and I guess it's kind of like story time. I mean, even as adults, or maybe you're a kid watching this, I don't know. Um, you know, everyone likes story time. There's nothing wrong with that. So, anyway, I have some images of the Bling Ring from Sofia Coppola's book. Um, so yeah. So a lot of these are some of the celebrities who were affected. A lot of big names, such as Orlando Bloom and Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton, and yes, and then kind of the infamous shoes images. Well, I guess the images aren't infamous, but the shoes from Paris Hilton's closet. Just all these shoes. And then I kind of wanted to show some pictures of looking, the themes of visuality with looking, being looked at. There's a lot of mirrors in the film. Oh, and again with the being looked at, Paris Hilton. So the film was filmed on location, like where the actual robbery, plural, happened, with Paris Hilton, and Paris Hilton had pillows made of her own image. So it's just, there's just so many layers of looking. And then the chandelier. I mean, that gets beyond kind of the scope of this video. And then well, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. The cover of the Bling Ring for, I think, the American version. So okay, so story time. We'll come back to talking about it. So a little break from story time. So yes, so if you're not familiar with the story, well, it's not really a story. It's like really happened, although some people would say, what is the difference between fiction and history? But that's a longer discussion. But there were teens living in Casa Blas, and this is in close proximity to LA and celebrity culture. Also, like there were some famous people who lived in that neighborhood too, like uh, keeping up with the Kardashians. So I don't know, there's a lot of celebrity going on. So when these teens are kind of forming their identities and thinking about the world, they're surrounded with celebrity culture. It's in close proximity to where they live. It's on the internet. It's on social media, which is, like I said, becoming a more prevalent. Um, so yeah, so this takes place um, after the 2008 recession. So there's a lot of these dynamics of social inequality at play. So yeah, like I said, social media becoming more prevalent, or just becoming prevalent in general. And I also want to say that while there's myriad things that the media could talk about, just some ideas like income inequality, international relations, the media shifted from celebrities, shifted to talk about celebrities' lives. Celebrity lives used to be private and really controlled by the studio system. But then some networks started just being dedicated to celebrity culture, and information about celebrities was available 24/7. So I think it kind of, well, I mean, you could say warps, or maybe there's a more neutral term, but it affects kind of how we see things. So again, that's a whole other discussion. I mean, it's part of this discussion, but just thinking about kind of the way we view the world through media. Like, for example, one thing that's always kind of stood out to me is I'm a fan of the Ralph Nader podcast, and he said something about how 1 million Americans lost food stamps under some changes in policy, and it wasn't talked about in any of the major networks or places, like I know like Democracy Now! Talked about it, but like, the mainstream kind of media outlets, like you would think that if it's affecting, well, if you're optimistic, you would think something affecting 1 million Americans would be something that you would cover, but, it just wasn't. And, this goes back to like the history that, the media, it used to cover the proletariat, but then, a bunch of things happened that, kind of quashed that. But in any case, whether it's income inequality or celebrity culture, whether we like it or not, we are affected by the media. We're not stupid, but like, just by things being covered all the time, it's like, it's kind of seeping into your brain. So I think the volume of coverage is shaping, what we're thinking about that. So the teens, we're seeing all of this media about celebrity culture, and so they wanted to emulate the celebrities by owning luxury goods. So instead of just seeing their neighbors, they're seeing all these luxury goods, thousands of dollars, purses and clothes, that most of these celebrities are, well, they either had the incomes to shop, and a lot of it was free as well from designers. So so the teens were kind of looking at that, and it's kind of shaping their everyday. So anyway, the teens, again, just to give background, if you're not familiar with this news story or the movie, they looked on the internet to find the home addresses and the schedules of celebrities. So, for example, if celebrities were going to be out of town, they said that they were going to go on a trip. So, don't post this kind of stuff on the internet, but it's kind of hard if you're a celebrity and it's being reported. Well, especially the next thing, it's like if there was an awards show. So, for the major awards shows, they knew who was going to be in attendance, so then they could rob the homes, which, yeah, they went to and they just kind of hung out at. And, it was kind of like they just kind of wanted that essence and kind of feeling like they were a celebrity. So what happened next was interesting. So after wearing the clothes and taking pictures of themselves at some of the clubs that the celebrities would frequent, and then they'd post them on Facebook and social media, then the teens became disinterested in the objects, these kind of objects that they're kind of idolizing in a way and coveting. Then they just sold them on the beach for like $50, like a Louis Vuitton bag that would be like a couple $1,000s, because the objects weren't, they didn't really care about the objects. It was about, their image. So their status was going up with their peers, because they, were kind of showing this certain lifestyle. So they just really cared about the image, and then the object was no longer relevant for creating that. So I think that's really a really interesting distinction, that it's not about the object, but it's about the essence that the object creates. And sometime I'd like to talk more about Bourdieu and how objects, are reflecting status and class. But moving on, so it wasn't about the goods, it was creating image. So no, they didn't even care about the luxury goods. They just wanted the social capital. I mean, maybe they, I don't know. I mean, I think, part of them liked some of the stuff. It wasn't just, totally utilitarian, but mostly they wanted the social capital, and the goods were a means to an end. So Coppola is, like I said, was constantly showing mirrors in the film. So the teens are looking at themselves with the new clothes on in the mirror, and then seeing their reflection. They're also modeling clothes for each other and seeing their peers, their kind of in groups, reflection of them. And then they're also looking in the camera. Coppola has images of the teens posing in the club and posting, pictures where they're all in their designer clothes at the clubs, where celebrities also go. So it's creating this image. So like I said, it's not about the objects, but it's their essences, and using the essences to gain capital amongst their peers. So I wanted to talk about Mirzoeff. So Mirzoeff states that there are three kind of types of way that media goes, and he talks about it in his book, The Right to Look. So there's Visuality 1, Visuality 2, and countervisuality. And this is based on Chakravarti's History 1 and History 2 concept. So what is this? If you don't know, briefly, Visuality 1 is any media that's supporting the hegemonic state. So it is agreeing with what the sovereign state is for. Visuality 2 can be neutral. It's not saying anything for or against the hegemonic state. It's, just kind of a neutral thing. But it can also be countervisuality, which would be something challenging or against, in contrast to the agenda of the hegemonic state. So the celebrity news that Coppola is depicting would be Visuality 1, because it's supporting the consumerism of the hegemonic state. So everything is all well and good. The media is kind of idolizing, celebrity culture and consumerism, and everything that would keep capitalism going, which, is more and more dominating the country in this kind of pull between democracy and capitalism, with capitalism kind of, you know, being uneven on the scales, and democracy being kind of diminished. But then Coppola's film itself attempts countervisuality by critiquing consumerism. So I am a really big fan of Sofia Coppola, but I'm gonna say that it doesn't measure up. But that's not a critique on Coppola. That's just to say that this is a noble cause to critique capitalism, consumer culture, and to create a piece of media that one, or Mirzoeff, or one could call countervisuality, but really it's impossible. It's kind of like an asymptote that's always trying to approach the line but never quite getting there. You know, it's just really tricky. And again, I want to talk you know, more about this at length, but in any case, you know, the film is critiquing consumer culture, but then it's also glamorizing it in a way. And, you know, so it's kind of interesting as an audience, because I don't know, I'm really into fashion, so it's like you kind of get into the into the fashion, but at the same time, you know that it's problematic, and you know, we shouldn't be exalting celebrity culture or consumerism. I mean, obviously, you know, creating this drive in the teens, and I mean, you know, do the teens share responsibility? Yes. You know, they committed the crimes, but at the same time, they were minors in, well, most of them, in a society that is you know, encouraging these things. So again, you know, it's wrong to steal, you know, thou shalt not steal, but at the same time, you know, that's not the end of the story. You know, there is also this culture that was kind of creating this desire that is problematic, and you know, deserves to be critiqued, as Coppola is doing. So yeah, so it's difficult to critique without reifying existing structures, just in general, whether it's capitalism or celebrity culture or something else. But Coppola makes a valiant effort in her film, and it is worth watching more than once. I highly recommend it. So thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of this, and if you enjoyed this video, consider liking, and subscribing, and sharing. So see you next time. Thank you.